All right, we are back. It's January 4th, our first Modern Day Alchemist of 2024. Welcome, everybody, to the new episode. We are at episode 32 of Modern Day Alchemists here with Steve O'Hayes and Kristen Brown. And what a joy to get this week, this first week of the year started right with hanging out with some good friends that have great wisdom, great experience, great thoughts, great energy to share with each other and with the audience that tunes in either live or after the fact. So I'm Mosif. I'm Mosif.
For all the dyslexic out there.
Mosif, right. For all the dyslexics. I'm Joseph Mojo McCarthy, and I would like to introduce my dear friends for those that you have not met them, and we'll start with Kristen Brown. Tell us where you are, Kristen. What are you up to? How do people find you off of this platform?
Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm a spiritual and empowerment author, healer, and mentor. And I am hailing from Phoenix, Arizona, North Phoenix, really kind of Scottsdale border. And I'm in my office right now.
Right on.
There it is.
And there it is.
That's where magic happens. 2 recliners.
That's what I'm
Kristen
talking
always
about.
has to be prompted to share about her best-selling book, but I think she has it there on her desk.
Yep, I do. This is my book that was released not even a year ago. It was April of 2023. It's called This Recovering People Pleaser, a spiritual guide to reclaim your true worth and attract the love you deserve. And this is available on 40,000 book-selling sites, or you can just go to Amazon, and I will pop that link over there in the comments.
Nice.
Can you put all 40,000 of the book-selling sites
That would be
in the
great.
comments for us? Would you? That would
We
be
No
just
problem.
read them actually today. Let's just
You guys
read them
just
all.
keep talking, and by the end of the thing, I should have it.
And Kristen was just sharing with the three of us before we went live that she was announcing through her newsletter that she's coaching and giving a discount to start the new year and picked up a bunch of new clients. So hooray, Kristen, for all you
Yay.
are doing.
Woo-hoo.
And success.
you.
I'm doing this thing now. You guys taught me this. People
right.
are probably like, "What? Why does he always do that?"
It's
That's what you do.
snapping. It's supposed to be snapping.
Make up your mind. Now it's snapping. I thought it was this. All this time I've been
Snapping with your
doing this.
fingertips. It's the
Okay,
silent
so I just
snapping.
need to give a shout out to Jason Edwards. He's one of my homie bros, and he's here with us. And you guys would love him if you met him in person.
Right on. Thank you, Jason, for joining us and for putting comments. For those that have tuned in live, you can certainly add to the comment list. Some of them will show up on screen. All right, Steve O'Hayes, introduce yourself to those who haven't met you before, brother.
My name is Hebo Stays. For all the
Yeah.
Mojif Sakarthis out there, I'm a happypreneur, and I'm here to navigate, activate, and advocate your happy life. We do that through podcasting, through online, through live events, all sorts of stuff like that. And we're hailing, as Kristen would say, what the hail? We're hailing all the way from the great Pacific Northwest. And Joseph, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I forgot to put your websites up here. I'm going to go back to Kristen here for a second. She's got a nice little shortened URL here for those that aren't viewing us on screen. It's go.ht/book. That's go.ht/book. And Steve, what's the best place for people to connect with you?
Just go to happylife.studio right there on the screen. That would get you everything that we have is on there.
All right, cool. Yep, and same for me. Right just beneath my picture, it's mojo.studio. For those that are just listening in, mojoe.studio, which is a link tree to all of my different social media platforms. And I do have a store of gear it's both on Etsy and on Printify of all of my own designs that are inspirational type of designs on more than 1,000 products. So feel free to.
There's some good ones, by the way. There's some good ones on there. Get something that no one else has. Go check it out.
Get one of each. That's my goal.
And give them away. What a great way to start the new year.
One of each, right? Exactly. So here we are launching into 2024, and a lot of people start the new year with goals, resolutions, hopes, just this idea of a fresh start, which it's fantastic that it's built into our solar system, that we go around the Earth in 365 and something days. I think we're in a leap year this year, right? So we're going to have a February 29th this year, which means that my nephew, who was born on February 29th, gets a birthday once every 4 years. I like to
So he
tease him
turns
about
3 this year, huh?
that. Right. Yeah, he's 40, so he gets his 10th birthday, which
Wow.
is pretty fantastic. But as we've traveled around a full rotation of the sun on this Earth spinning on its axis, A lot of things have happened in the past, and New Year's is always a reminder that the past doesn't define us. It says how we got to where we are now, but it certainly doesn't define where we go next, unless, of course, we allow it. And so many people make lists, they make goals, they make resolutions. I'm one who doesn't do that very often because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. But I'm not against the idea of goal setting. I just know that it's really important that it's not just a wish list, right? It's an action list. There's a strategy behind that. Because if we don't create new habits, then the idea, whatever great ideas we have, will probably fall by the wayside when things get tough and when we lose that energy of new year, new start, new whatever. So today, I want the three of us to get a chance to talk about not just adding something to our lives, because a lot of times we have this mentality that if we get this and if we do that and if we accomplish and accumulate stuff or something or add something to our lives, then we'll feel happier, more fulfilled, more purposeful. And so oftentimes our goals or our lists are all about accumulating, adding to our lives. But I think there's this great principle that the three of us have touched on and that we want to dive deep into today about addition by subtraction, I like to call it. And that is not adding stuff to our lives to somehow accumulate or achieve, but subtracting the things in our life that are holding us back, that are keeping us down, that are giving us a false perception of ourselves, that are a limiting belief system, right? And that some of the greatest progress we can make isn't by adding or achieving, but by removing, by stripping away the things that are either unnecessary, they may have served us well in the past, or have never served us well, but we keep dragging along with us like this big backpack, or worse, an anchor, which keeps us from moving, from flying, from succeeding, from growing.
Right.
So life is really a lot about growth, but growth doesn't have to come through accumulation. It can certainly come through subtraction by taking away the things that are unnecessary or not serving us anymore. So just at that very high level, 30,000 foot look, what does that bring to mind for the two of you about this idea of not accumulating or attaining, but letting go and subtracting things from your life?
Well, I think you can add things to your life if your life has room for it. But we, especially here in America, I don't know about the rest of the world. I have a hunch, but well, I don't even know. I don't know. But I know here in America, our lives are full. We are up to here, right? We are always go, go, go. We keep adding things. And every year we keep adding more and more and more. But the only way you can add something, as we all know, is if you subtract something. If your life is up to here, and the fuller our life gets, it gets to a point where this adds up, all the noise adds up, and pretty soon we are on edge all the time. The problem with that is when that happens, when you want to add something, you get a New Year's resolution, you get a new idea, you get a new goal, you want to add something. If your life is already full, you can't add anything else to it. So that was one of the bonuses that we actually got, in my opinion, with COVID, was it made us slow down. And I think a lot of us enjoyed that. But the moment we could, quote unquote, get back to normal, we went back to adding our lives, getting our lives full of a lot of stuff. And it's not difficult to fill your life with things. But if your life is full and you're already at your max level, then the only way you can add something without adding more stress is to subtract something. But that's a problem. We add things, but we never remove things because we like them, or we think, what do I remove? Well, if I can't think of something to remove, then I really shouldn't be adding anything if my life is already super full, if I'm already anxious, if I got these, thoughts. And that's why I like this whole concept of, instead of adding something, what are things that are getting in your way, the way you put it, Joe? What things are getting in your way? What are some negative things that we could remove from our life? I'm going to work on removing, instead of saying I'm going to be be a more positive person, I'm going to say, I'm going to remove complaining from my life this year. And now I'm removing something from my life. I'm going to remove worry. And what causes me to worry? Well, when I watch this, when I listen to this, when I hang out with this person. So I'm going to subtract that. I'm going to hang out with them or watch that thing less. And now I'm actually freeing up my life. I'm getting rid of the negative things in a recipe. Nobody puts, liver, I mean, something negative in a recipe, it ruins the whole recipe, right?
Liver and
Especially
ice
in
cream.
brownies. Don't put
I
liver
was
in
trying to
brownies.
think of what
Don't put liver and
Christy
ice
said.
cream.
What did you say the other week? You're talking about fruitcake or something? I can't
Oh,
remember.
what were we talking about? Oh, I don't remember. Don't ask my memory. Don't ask my
Anyway,
memory.
I mean, if you have a great chocolate chip cookie recipe and all of a sudden you throw something in there that just broccoli or something, I mean, it just doesn't go, right? And so our lives, when we remove things from that recipe, then our true selves, our happier selves, start to rise up, start to show off a little bit more. And a lot of times those negative things are like a blanket that keep us from shining to the extent that we're made to shine. So I love this concept of subtracting instead of adding.
I'll add to that. I will say this, that what I've noticed is that over the years and talking to people and whatnot, they're like, oh yeah, New Year's resolution, go. And they do want to add something to their life. But we are habitual beings. Like we are literally created to be habitual. Dr. Joe Dispenza's book is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And why is it called that? Because we are so in this autopilot type of generation, generating, not a generation as far as our age, but I mean this generating, motivating, stream forward of autopilot. So sometimes the best thing that we can do is actually remove something from our life that, like that Steve-O was talking about, actually opens up more space in our life to fill then with something that is more fulfilling, not just something that is more crazy. So the shocking thing about COVID for me is that I am a doer and I'm a goer and la 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 la. And I kind of enjoyed it because everyone's like, oh, you got to stay in your house. Initially I'm like, oh my God, like that's not okay. And then because I show up to challenges, I'm like, well, let me see what this means, because this is happening in my life right now for a reason. It's happening to a lot of people for a reason, because everything happens for us, not to us. So I said, what does this mean? And it meant getting, I was kind of grateful to allow this space in my life to break the habit of being Kristen Brown. I was forced to break the habit. And it's not that it was a bad thing. My life was functioning fine, but I realized how much I enjoyed that space. And the strangest thing too is that we went to the movies all the time. And we've been maybe 3 times since COVID, since the lockdown. We haven't gone. But there's something else that I wanted to bring to this. And I have been using this with family members recently, because I heard this. I have to give credit to where it's due, because I did not come up with this. I heard this on Mel Robbins' podcast. And she said, for the new year, what do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing? And what would you like to continue doing?
Yes.
So
Right.
this is like this really bomb ass way to look at our life and say, wow, I get to reevaluate all this. And what is it that I need to stop? Now, sometimes people might say I need to stop drinking or smoking or, whatever it might be, something that's obvious like that. But I asked somebody recently and the person said, I need to stop comparing myself on social media. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to notice that when I start to compare myself, that I'm going to switch out of that. And they came up with a little statement they're going to say to themselves instead of just staying in that, that zone. So what I have noticed is that when I have deleted things from my life, and as you guys can tell that are seeing me, I'm actually smiling while I'm saying this, because it literally, I mean, having a hard time talking through it, because when I have deleted things through my life, things got so much better. But I had to slow down. I had to get conscious, and I had to say, what does not feel good? Because we are in a vibrational game. We are in a frequency game here on earth. And anytime that we are contributing to our energetic frequency by doing things or allowing things to continue in our life that don't make us feel good, even if it's just a little bit, like I don't watch torture on TV. I love action movies. I love thrillers. But if there's some weird torture scene, even if it's just a little bit, like where a bunch of people are punching someone, I will leave the room, or they have to mute it, and I will close my eyes, because that contributes to low vibe for me. It gets my nervous system activated. I physically feel that when that's happening. I'm like, I eliminated watching torture scenes from my life. And this is the type of things that I will pull stuff out that like, this doesn't feel good. Staying up late doesn't feel good. I removed it from my life. I'm not going to stay up late anymore. I didn't say I'm going to start going to bed early. I said, I'm not staying up late anymore. So I'll leave it there because I could go on and on.
No, it's great. It's a great example. And I do want us to be specific today about things that each one of us have actually done. What have we eliminated from our life so that it created more room or a more space, right, to grow or to learn or to do something different, so that we didn't just continue in the habits, in the patterns. Kristen made this great point from the Joe Dispenza's talks, and I see that all the time, that by default, we will just do what we've always done, even though in our minds we're expecting a different result, which is actually the definition of insanity, doing something the same way over and over again, expecting a different result. So there actually is a requirement built into that equation where if we want different results, we want better results, we want to expand and grow and learn and do something new and become something more, then it's actually a requirement that we do something different, right? It's not just making a list, but actually creating new habits, new patterns, which might require, actually does require, that we let go of the old ones. So one of the things that I am and have continued to learn is to let go of, or to remove from my life, is hurry. Because as Dallas Willard says, hurry is one of the chief enemies of our soul's growth. If we're always in a hurry, then we're never in the present, because we're always in the process of getting to the next thing. And when we get to that thing, we're on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And in fact, Dallas Willard says, relentlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Relentlessly eliminate hurry from your life. He just makes this great point about it. And I'm a big fan of his writings, and I think he's a very wise and mature person. And so that caught my attention. Where in my life am I in a hurry? And as a result, I'm actually accelerating time, but never enjoying the moment that I'm in, right? And if I do that for too long, I'll get to the end of my life and wonder what happened. And I certainly don't want to do that. And so one of the things that I am reminding myself even today in this podcast is to eliminate, one of the things I got to remove from my life is the tendency to hurry. And we live in such a fast-paced society with a calendar full of things that we have to get to and that we have to get done, that it's very easy to get caught up in the momentum of hurry from one thing to the next, and then not enjoy any one of those moments as they fly by.
Right.
So it's something else that comes to mind for you guys.
I like to call it a hurricane, actually.
A hurricane.
And I got some good stuff from you. I actually developed a series on this, a teaching series to help people in this area, because we don't think about hurry being such an ugly monster, but hurry is horrible. A lot of our stress, a lot of our anxiety, a lot of our anger towards other people comes from always just being in a hurry, which leads me into what one thing that I've done that I've removed from my life. And that is when I drive. Number one, I try to leave earlier. I noticed when I leave earlier, I'm not as angry at drivers cutting me off or doing whatever. But I catch myself when I start to lose it, when I start to get angry because of how somebody is driving. I ask myself the question, why am I angry at that? Why does that bother me so much? And so what I have removed is from cursing people while they're driving. And when I do curse them, what I do is I replace it with speaking life over them. So for instance, if someone I don't like how they're driving, whatever, or they're tailgating me or whatever, when I catch myself, I catch myself, my cat's trying to get into my door. I catch myself.
I know that feeling.
Just
and
like when you're trying to focus, it's always when I'm recording a podcast too.
Of course.
That's when it wants to come in, right?
Cat knows.
Some cat. I just cursed my cat. No, my amazing cat. There's a scripture, there's a Bible verse, it's hundreds of years old, right? That talks about, life and death comes out of the power of our tongue,
Right. Yeah.
And so when I find myself getting angry at somebody and cursing them, like saying, what an idiot, what a moron. In my opinion, Kristen, you talked about the vibes and sending out the energy, and that's a negative energy. I mean, we call other people names and what an idiot or whatever, they're this political party or whatever. We're speaking curses over them. And what I do is, if I do get to that point, I immediately turn around and I ask God to forgive me. I say, God, forgive me, and bless that person. That person is valuable. That person is important, and good for them. And so what has happened is it used to be that I would just lose it right away. But the more but every time I lost it, I would speak something positive in place for that person. I'd speak positive. What happened was I would lose it less and less. And there became this point where there was a line right there, and I'd start to lose it, and I'd catch myself before I lost it. And now it's usually I get to the point where I start to, and why am I doing that? Why am I? And I calm down. So it's made my, if we just got rid of road rage or the road anxiety when we drive, think how much happier our lives would be. So that's one thing that I've removed or tried and still am working on removing from my life.
I just want to jump right on top of that before you go, Kristen, is that I have to do the same thing to myself, Steve. So I've found just in the last year, I'd be aware that when I tripped or I dropped something or I forgot something or I just made a mistake, that the voice would come up and I would curse myself. You idiot, you bonehead, there you go again. So typical Joe, right? Those negative voices. And so I have to and continue to eliminate speaking those judgments, whether it's internally or externally, to myself. And when I hear those words, feel that judgment on me, to turn that around and say, hey, you're human. Laugh it off, make it a game, learn from it, and make it a blessing, right? That, hey, you've got this, you can handle it, you'll learn from this. You're funny, you whatever those words are. So that, as you said, Steve, the words that we speak can create life for others, but they also can create life for ourselves as we hear the internal dialogue changing. And
what you're doing too is you're creating a new you, right? How did Kristen say it in the very beginning about
breaking the habit of being yourself?
Yeah. Now you're developing a new you, because if you just say, I'm never going to speak negative about me again, it's probably not going to happen. But if you say, every time I speak something negative, I'm going to speak something positive instead, then what happens is that line happens there too. And all of a sudden you start to speak negative and you go, wait a minute. And you catch yourself and you begin to change your habits and become a more positive person towards yourself. I love that, Joe. I'm good for you. Way to go, man. That's awesome.
I want to add just to that, since we're on that topic, because I'll say things to myself sometime, but the energy attached to it is what really matters. So if I drop something and I'm laughing and I go, you Fruit Loop, you drop this again, that's not harmful. That's not harmful energy, because I feel lighthearted when I'm saying it. Even if I say the word idiot to myself, but I'm like, you idiot. Now, I don't do that, but I'm just saying, I don't want everybody to think like, oh my God, I have to be, so crazy about this. Just really understand that it's about the energy. What is the space you're in? Are you being in a loving space with yourself? Are you being in a compassionate space with yourself? Are you being, gentle with yourself? Because I will say things to myself sometimes, but it's nothing that's too negative. But you talked about, Joseph, you said that you wanted some examples of things that we are stopping. And I started to write down some things, and I thought, you know what? These I did last year, so I'm going to use this under the continue bracket. Great. Because you said I'm going to continue to stop too.
Continue. Yeah, right.
I'll list them pretty quickly. And one is negative people. So there was a point in time, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where there was just a lot of low vibey type people around me. And I was really feeling, I think it was about 2 years ago, and I was really feeling the effects of that. And I had to go within and say, okay, these are friends that I've known a long time, or, I have these attachments to who these people are. And oftentimes as individuals, we start to negotiate with ourselves and why that we can't spend less time with them, and it's not appropriate, and these type of things. And what I realized is that my energy isn't good when I'm around them.
Right.
Because their energy coming at me, and then now they're getting my energy back. Right. So even if I'm not saying much, I'm not in a great place, because wasn't in the place yet that I could manage myself around their energy, because I feel the ultimate goal is to be able to manage yourself so well that you have just this beautiful bubble of light around you that when someone's acting like that, it just bounces off of you. Okay. But if we immerse ourselves in something enough and we get dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped, we are the sum of the 5 people we surround ourselves with, right? So eventually we might start to kind of go into that mode. So that's one of the things that I removed and I continue to remove. And I'm not saying people can't have a bad day, because I'm a freaking coach, for God's sakes. I talk to people that show up at my door sometimes already crying before I even open the door. So this is not about that, but this is about that just everything's bad and horrible and victim, victim, victim all the time. I remove that. The other thing that I think is very powerful is that I remove the how-to from my dreams and my goals, because many times as human beings, we want to control. And we want to like try to formulate a plan about how to do this. And we think this is the next best step to do this thing. But lots of times, and this is very law of attraction manifesting energetic, what I'm talking about right now, is that a lot of times we could be muddying the waters of what we're really supposed to be doing if we would just get quiet, sit back, relax, and allow universe, God, source to speak to us, right? Because that is when we get the true step forward, other than us thinking that we need to solve a problem. And I've spent a lot of time spinning my wheels trying to think I had to come up with the way to reach these goals. And every time, I swear without fail, when I just sit back and surrender, this amazing answer comes in, right? So this wasn't even really in my mind, but you guys were talking about, all these clients I got recently. And I was writing a newsletter, just a Happy New Year newsletter. I got to wish all my people Happy New Year, blah, 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 Happy New Year. And then all of a sudden, I found myself writing that they could get this massive discount off of single sessions. And I sat back and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this was not planned whatsoever. It literally came out of my fingers. And I said, okay, this must be a how-to. This must be something that the universe wants me to do. So I did it, and boom. I mean, this is probably, I don't even know what date it is, Thursday. I started this Sunday. It's like 7 people have reached out to do this, to have this with me, because I had put out there, I would love to have some new clients, and this is what happened. So that's another thing, is eliminating the how-tos for my goals, but continuing to, because that's in the space I'm already in. And the last one that I will share is the same thing that you talked about, Joseph, is the hurry, because I was in a place where I was rushing so much that I work from home. I could take a damn nap if I want to. And I'm like trying to make my lunch, eating at my desk. And I'm like, what are you doing, girl? This is resistant energy that you are sending out into the cosmos. This is, I have to work hard. There's not enough time. All of these things is resistant energy. So as soon as I said, you're going to sit your butt down, you're going to make that smoothie. And I will tell you all that I had to break the habit of being myself, because I was in a locked pattern of rushing. And this took me, I couldn't even tell you, I'm terrible with this, maybe 4 months. And it's not that is like one day it would be okay, but I could feel it creeping back up again. I'd feel myself like heading to the office and I would stop myself and I would make myself sit there for 5 minutes and do nothing. I'm like, nope, you're going nowhere. You're going to sit right here and you're going to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to get comfortable with not rushing. You're going to get comfortable with letting go, letting God. You're getting comfortable with you don't know the how to. And so this is where, something that we could start doing with ourselves is, in part of this, is to have mental discipline. It doesn't take much to retrain ourselves. People think it's so hard. I hear there's so much in the world out there. It's so hard to change. It's so hard. No, it's not. The actual change itself is actually quite easy. What's hard is the discipline and the repetition, because we're breaking the habit of being ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think you even have to break the habit of the voice that thinks that it's hard. Right? Because goes back to that belief system. Right. If I think it's hard or if I think it's easy, I'm going to be right either way. So even being aware of the voice in my head that says, change is hard, I can't do that, I don't have whatever it takes, right, to do that. Well, I've just told myself and set myself up for failure, because I am creating a belief system that no, I can't, or that it's too hard, or whatever that is. So it's actually a matter of rewiring our belief system that change isn't hard. It's just a matter of small, simple steps that are sustained over time to see the results. Because I think oftentimes in this instant gratification society, what we have to let go of, another thing to eliminate, is a need for results immediate, a need for the results now. Because I know that mastery of anything, as a musician, mastery of learning to play the trumpet, if I would have given up in year 1 or year 2, I wouldn't have toured the world as a gospel trumpet player, right? But to stay with it through the mistakes, through the clams, through the embarrassing moments, through the I don't like this, I don't want to, I don't think I can, I'll never be good enough, all those voices, those have to be, I have to be both aware of those and to say, okay, I'm going to let that go. I got to let go of those negative perceptions, that belief system that I can't, or that it's too hard, as Kristen was saying, and adopt a new framework. What if it isn't? What if it's just a matter of continuing along the path until I see the results? And I don't know how long that's going to be. That's part of the how-to letting go that Kristen was talking about as well. Or as I think Tony Robbins, I've heard him say many times, if we have a compelling what, or a clear what, and a compelling why, the how will present itself, just as Kristen was talking about. And so it's clarifying, where do I want to go and why do I want to go there, but not being so caught in the tyranny of how that it keeps me from progressing or stops me too early in the process to see the results.
Well, and it's not a destination, right? It's a journey. It's not like, well, I can't wait till I can be comfortable making a smoothie and not being all, no, Kristen, you're better at it now than you were then, right? And you're probably not as good as you want to be. But if you keep looking at it as a destination, when will I ever get there? Well, maybe we don't ever get to that thing we aim at. It's so high. But the point is, am I better at it than I was before? And both you guys are just dropping some serious gold today. Like you said, Joe, it takes the same amount of energy to believe I can as it does to believe that I can't. Doubt is faith too. Doubt is just simply faith in the negative. Okay. People say, I'm not a person of faith. Yeah, you are. If you doubt, you believe that the negative is going to happen.
Love
it takes
that.
the same amount of energy, and this whole idea that we need to change our mindset to where we can do it. And one way that we can do that, honestly, is that, it was cool that Kristen, that you said that too, because I struggle with the same thing too. I find myself always have to go, and then when I sit down to watch I'll even say, I'm going to watch a game today. I'm going to spend all day today, like all guys do. And I'm going to watch the game. And after about a half time, I'm like, I got to go do something. And so what I do in that situation, because I know what I'm trying to do, and I know that voice inside of my head that I'm trying to quit. So I force myself to watch it anyway. And then I force myself to say, there's nothing wrong with you watching this game. There's nothing wrong with you Netflixing. There's nothing wrong with you staying on the couch. Like, yesterday I was struggling with some of that myself. And I going, man, I should be doing more. Well, I woke up at 3:00 this morning, couldn't go back to sleep. And so I got out of bed. I went to work, right? And then I came back at like 8. I was tired. I'm like, why am I so tired? Well, because in other words, when we take our time to rest, the work time usually shows up. I just feel like we don't take enough time to relax and to do that. And the other thing that I want to tag on to, Joe, what you said, the good news about, removing negative. Or no, was it you, Kristen, that said that? But who said removing the negative people from my life?
That was Kristen.
Yeah, that was you. Okay. One thing I like about removing, this is why I was thinking it was Joe, because it led into my thought towards Joe. The good news about removing the negative people from your life, it means you now spend more time with the positive people in your life. The people, and you didn't have to do anything
Less is more.
Something from your life.
Yes. Right.
And it just happened. And I'll tell you what, for those of you guys that are watching or listening, whether it's live or it's later, Joe has been, Kristen, you know how Joe and I fire off each other because you're a part of all of our text things and stuff. But Joe came into my life when I made a decision I was going to stop hanging out with more negative people. I was going to stop hanging out with them. And then I started hanging out with Joe, who speaks into me, who makes me a better me, who makes me right. And it only happened because I removed. They're still friends. They're still acquaintances, whatever. I just don't spend the time with them. And all of a sudden now I'm spending time with people that are building me up, making me a better person. And therefore I'm doing that for other people and passing it on.
You certainly
I
are.
love that.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So I also want to talk about releasing tolerances. Okay. So what is it that we are? Yeah. What?
Tell us more about that. Yeah.
Okay. So what are we tolerating? Now, I'll just give an example of mine. So I am a YouTuber, many people know, and I have a lot of people reaching out to me on the back channel saying, I'm looking at the SEO of your YouTube and you need this. And I'm telling you, I'm getting 3 or 4 of these a week. And I'm like, this is annoying to me because I have 4 email addresses and they're all for certain aspects of my life. And so this is, of course, coming in unsolicited through my business thing. And I'm like, okay, I don't want this in here. Now, and it was also coming via DMs. Okay, so Instagram and YouTube. I was like, all right, this is bothering me. I don't like this. So I need to release this because I'll see I have a message. I'm like, I have a message that makes it a go-to for me because it's part of my business. And then I'm like, this again. So as part of releasing tolerances, this is one of the things. And I would respond to them, say, thank you for reaching out. I'm not interested. Okay. So number 1, stop responding. Okay. Now this is part of healing from people pleasing because old Kristen's got to respond to people, be nice to people, make sure they know, and all these things. And instead of taking the time to have to do all that, I made sure it was someone I didn't want to keep their contact, right? Like I said, they're just blowing me up. So I would just say, okay, when I'd read their email, and I'd say, sending you love. I hope you find what you're looking for. Block. Okay. So it's not like, you jerk, can't stop reaching out. Why are all these people reaching out to me? I don't want that energy. Right. So I just am like, I send them love. I mean, they're just trying to get business. There's nothing wrong with this. It is unsolicited though. And this is my business email address that very few people have unless it goes, through my business. So I'm like, and that's what I've been doing. And I've been very happy blocking people. So that's one thing that I stopped doing was responding, feeling like I had to respond to all these things. But I wanted to talk in regards to what Steve-O was saying about watching the game. And you guys saw me get up and walk across my office, and I picked this up, which is something I keep. It's laminated, and I keep it at my desk over there, or my coaching area. And what it is Abraham Hicks emotional guidance scale. Okay. And this is literally their thing, should be TM'd. And at the bottom is fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. Now, each step that you move up, you are actually moving up in emotion. Okay, where you get to the optimal level of emotion, which is joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation, and gratitude. And in this area here is when we're really locked in with spirit, with source. Okay, so what the key is, if you're down here, just moving yourself up one step is what matters. Just one step. So you could move from, might be shocking to people, but you could move from fear, grief, depression to number 18, which is revenge, or number 17, which is anger. But what you're doing is you're moving yourself up the scale. Okay. You're still going up. You're not hanging out in that lowest, densest, darkest vibration. So when you were talking about sitting on the couch watching football, what I would ask you as a coach, I would say, was that your highest joy? Did that up you? Did that make you feel even just one step better than you did 5 minutes ago? And if it didn't, if you're like, no, it actually made me feel better to go work and made me feel better to start the yard work or to fix the garage door, then by all means do that. So a lot of times I feel like we put caps and, perimeters around what we're supposed to be doing. Right. We talked about the kids. I should lay on the couch, or I should take a nap, or what feels good. And this is something that I do every day. And I will continue. This is another one of my continues into the new year. Maybe it'll be something that somebody wants to start in the new year, is I ask myself all day long, what feels good next? Now I have the luxury of working from home and being my own boss. But this works very, very well in my business because, again, I'm releasing the how-tos, I'm releasing the shoulds, all right? But sometimes it's what do I want to do next? I'm like, let me return that text from Mojo or Steve-O. Sometimes that's the next best step. See what I'm saying? But at that time that text comes in, it's like, okay, that's not good for me right now because I'm in the middle of creating this thing and that's distracting me. And I'm not just saying you guys, I get lots of texts. Right. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to set that aside for now. It feels good for me to continue creating this thing I'm creating. Now what's my next step? Oh, now it feels good to respond to my bros. See what I'm saying? So I feel like if we can get really super conscious with ourselves, because this whole journey is about getting out of the unconscious autopilot way of thinking and doing in life, and getting just super more conscious, and just knowing when we choose for us, when we choose the next best feeling thing to do, which is inspirational, inspired. Like, the next best feeling isn't go drowning yourself in a bottle of wine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is the next best thing that actually feels light and airy to me. And it could be doing the dishes. And I will say this, that sometimes vacuuming has gotten me out of funks, because I'm like, what feels good right now? I'm pissed, or I'm negative or depressed or something, or I'm uninspired. What feels good? And vacuuming pops into my mind. God knows why. I think it's because I like emptying the canister. So anyway, because that's like really satisfying. But I'll vacuum, and next thing you know, I just feel better because I followed the next best step.
You know, what comes to mind while you're talking about that is distractions. So here's another thing that we can eliminate from our lives to create room for something better, and that is distractions. Now, distractions is a very broad category, but we all know that at any given moment in our life, there are so many things clamoring for our attention. And without a clear intention, right, our attention can be distracted, which distracts and dissipates our energy.
Yes.
Right. So what Kristen's talking
Say that
about here
again.
is
Say that
so
again, Joe.
powerful.
Without a clear,
Yeah.
what did you say?
Without a clear intention, our attention can be dissipated, which is our energy, right? And our energy is everything. Our energy is life. What we give our attention to is what will grow, is what will expand, is what we will manifest, what we will harvest, right? So without a clear intention, as Kristen was talking about, what's the best decision? What's the best thing to focus on at any given moment? And there might be 10 really great things. So this is a very powerful principle here, is finding what do I focus on in this moment, so that the myriads of distractions, good, bad, and indifferent, don't dissipate my attention, whereas I can't grow, I can't focus, I can't get anything done. And we live in a society now where focus is really, really difficult for people to find. In fact, I heard a study out of COVID. What's the biggest challenge that you face now that COVID is easing up? And of all the things that people could have said, the number one thing that came up on a nationwide survey was, I can't focus. I can't put my attention on anything for long enough to accomplish something. And that's really important for us to eliminate the distractions. And that doesn't mean you have to call them bad, but put them aside for the moment so that you can give your attention intentionally and focus on something so that you can accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish in this
What are
moment.
some ways you do that, Joe?
Oops.
Let
me get to Kristen first.
I just want to piggyback on that real quick, because it's something that he said that I don't want to get lost in the talk. And that is when it comes to spending time with my family. If, again, recovering people pleaser here, super mommy, super nurture, super wife, super let me just be there for all of you all the effing time. Okay. So I could be sitting here in my office and someone needs me, and I will stop and I will be trying to give them my attention, but my brain's over here. I'm not remembering what they're saying. I have to ask them. They tell me later, and they said, I told you this. And I was like, I was standing in your door, and I'm like, okay. So what I started to do is I started to say, I hear you, I love you, and I want to pay attention, but my brain is over here. Let me wrap this up so that I can go. And then when I'm with her, him, whoever it might be, I'm fully wrapped, because I'm not helping anybody. I'm creating, I remember my mom doing that with me, and God bless her. She was an amazing mother, but she'd be at work and I'd hear the click, 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 click of her thing. Listening to me, and she didn't hear a word I said. Right. And it was very heartbreaking to me, because it made me feel like I didn't matter and these type of things. And all she had to say was, honey, can't talk to you right now. We'll call you after work. Cool. And then I knew I would have her rapt attention. So by us feeling like we, as people pleasers, recovering people pleasers, thinking we need to jump around, we're actually hurting them, and we're hurting ourselves too.
Right. Yeah. So the idea of going really deep can't happen if we're stretched a mile thin, right?
Right.
So I I'm wired this way, right? My attention span is short, like most people's. I think the latest study was that our attention span is about that same as a goldfish or something like that, something ridiculous because of all the distractions, right? And so I've heard some really great teachers say one of the ways that we can combat the distractions of our life, which really will keep us at that really shallow level rather than going deep into any person or any project or any intention, any goal, is to block out time and set a schedule where nothing else can interrupt unless it's an emergency and somebody's dying, right? And there's our exception to the rules.
Yes.
But that you set a schedule, a block time. And I know a lot of people, and I'm an artist, right, by nature. So block time sounds like structure. Well, it turns out the structure provides freedom because you set the clear intention that during this period of time, I'm going to go way deep with my focus and energy and attention to really accomplish and to grow, to write, to create music, to get a project done, or to be with a person where I'm not the phone in one hand and, the project in the back of my mind.
Yep.
And I'm really not giving anything any focus. And as Kristen said very clearly, that doesn't serve me or anybody else or anything that I want to accomplish very well. And so this is actually a gift to you and to others where you set a very clear block of time saying, this is where I'm going deep and I'm not going to let anything distract me other than an emergency.
And this takes
Love it.
me right into, I can't remember if I shared it here in my podcast, but I had a person taught me this once that they were seeing a counselor and a coach and they were really struggling at the time. And their coach told them the same thing. They said, give yourself time. So we're talking about getting rid of the negative, right? We're talking about addition by subtraction. She really struggled with a lot of negative thoughts in her mind towards certain things, towards certain people, towards her job. And so what she would do, she would give herself halfway home was this hill. And when she hit that hill, she gave herself that time to be negative. And what she's really doing is she's getting rid of the negative. She's releasing that pressure. She's throwing up that garbage, that bile that's inside of her. And then she knew that she could do that because she knew at the top of that hill, she had the last half of the way home that now she wasn't going to do it anymore. So I like that, Joe. Give yourself some time to really focus on that. Even if it's give yourself some time to focus on being negative so you can disperse, get that junk out of your system. And then the positive, it comes in so much easier and faster.
100%. Yep. So the Brendan Burchard, who I listen to a lot, talks about this release meditation where it's super simple. He says when he blocks out his time, and when he goes from one project to the next, he gives himself 30 seconds or a minute to just, with no distractions, just repeat the word release, release, release. So his breathing, right? He's attending to his breathing, and he is intentionally saying the word release so that whatever energetic distractions and things that have glommed onto his mind, that he's intentionally saying, be gone. I release you so that when I go into the next room, the next meeting, the next person that I meet, whatever it is on my schedule next, I'm not taking all the stuff, all the baggage, all the pressure, all the how-tos and shoulds and all that kind of stuff with me into that meeting, which will only, diminish the energy that I have in the next thing that I need to do. So I love that, the simplicity of that. Just taking 30 seconds, close your eyes, go for a walk, get out in nature and just say the word release, 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 and just feel the tension, right? And the stress be released from your body so that you can then receive that positive energy and take it with you into the next whatever.
And that promotes presence. And
Right.
in presence, we find peace, and we're out of stress because we're not ruminating on the past and we're not tripping out about the future. So we're getting ourselves into that present state, because if I'm with somebody and I'm over here worrying about this project, I am not at peace because I'm trying to listen as I'm trying to do this thing as well over here. And that doesn't work for me.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. We got Steve, go ahead.
I had somebody or premarital counseling. He talked about, and this was really good for us. My wife and I ended up talking it over because every couple's a little bit different, but he talked about how oftentimes when the man would come home from work, the guy would come home from work and put up his newspaper, and his wife has been waiting at home all day, or sometimes the roles are reversed, right? But the one partner has been at home all day, can't wait to talk to an adult, can't wait to find out how their spouse has been doing, and then the spouse comes home and just puts up the newspaper or dives into some project, and there's nothing going on. And what he said was, he said that's healthy. He told us, he says, when that happens, so what happened? My wife had to give me that time, because what I was doing was I was releasing all the junk of the day.
Yep.
I was releasing, and that newspaper was my private space. Saturday mornings as a kid, I do it with cereal boxes. That was my private space to get in the zone, so I can become present. And when she allowed me to, but there's nothing worse than when you're trying to release the negative of work, and someone just keeps trying to get your attention, trying to get you, and then they blame you for, you don't care about me, you're stuck behind the paper. And really what's going on is we're trying to get rid of that negative so that we can give our positive to our spouse, to our friend, or whatever.
Right. I agree with that. There's been times when I've gone on walks with my husband and I've said, I just need 15 minutes of silence. And initially he was like, what? And I'm like, I just need 15 minutes of silence. Like that's it. Like, I don't want to talk, and I don't want to listen right now. I want to be at one with me. I want to be in connection to myself. This reminds me of something else that I wanted to say and I forgot about, but I just remembered, is that you're talking about Brendan Burchard's release, which I've done the same exact thing, not knowing that he did it as well. But yeah, to me, it felt natural because I kept holding on to things. And I want to encourage people to make up your own stuff. Make up your own meditations.
Yeah.
Brendan made that up because it worked for him. He noticed that he was carrying stuff. I made that up for the same reason, because I'm like, I'm noticing that I'm carrying stuff into the next thing. And as you know, Joseph, I don't know if Steve-O knows this yet, but I got my daughter out of a depression by taking her driving every day for 2 hours for about a year, right? I mean, the depression started ending soon, sooner than that. And it's still continued to this day. We still do it occasionally just for fun, just because we like it. Now I forgot where I was going with that. But my point is that I learned also what I call clear and center. And that was, to me, it's a surrender practice. It's a letting go, letting God practice. Because again, as human beings, we are wired to control. We are wired to try to find the answer. We are wired in fear, and fear is control, right? So we constantly are trying to do things, and we can muddy the waters and we can mess things up. And when things start to, just might start to becoming clear, then we think we got to throw our English in there. We can mess things up. So back during my tsunami days, I would be driving in my mom van with the kids all in the back, and I'd literally be going, clear and center, clear and center. And for those on wisdom, I'm making a circle over my face with my palm opening and then grabbing my hand into a fist and pulling it down to my heart. And the kids would be like, what are you doing? Like, what? Because I'm literally out loud, clear and center, while we're driving down the car. And I said, I'm just, whatever I told them at the time, age appropriate, but I'm basically just clearing my energy, just making space. To this day, now they're older, 29, 27. And they're, my son says, clear and center. Like, he makes fun of it now because he remembers that.
Sure.
But that's something think about it, it's going to stick with him, because he knows, what, when it got rough for mom, she did something that she needed to do for her.
Yeah.
So I really want to encourage anybody that's listening, make up your own shit. You don't have to hear this from a professional. You don't have to hear this. Guess what? You're your own best authority. You're your own best mommy or daddy. You know exactly what you need more than anybody else on this planet. So don't wait for somebody to give you the magic elixir. You've got it already. Figure out what works for you and then implement it.
It's good. One of the things too I love about what's been said throughout this discussion is giving yourself a time limit. So Steve talked about the one lady who she'd get to the hill and she'd bitch and complain and moan and get all the negativity out. But she got to the crest of the hill, then she knew that the rest of the drive was taking on the positive stuff so that she showed up, right, in the person that she wanted to be for her family. And it sounds simplistic, but I've heard this from so many people, and I've practiced it myself, that having a 30-second time limit, having a 1-minute time limit, where when things go bad, I don't stuff it. I don't pretend like it didn't happen. Right. I actually have a moment to bitch, complain, to to scream into a pillow, to go for a walk, to let that energy flow out of me, which is a release, right? That's a letting go. That's what we're talking about today. What do I have to let go of so that I have more of who I want to be, who I want to become? Because as we've been demonstrating all this talk, you can't keep all that inside.
Right.
Eventually it's going to blow off the top, and it's probably not going to be pretty. It's going to make a big mess in the kitchen, right? Or wherever it is you happen to be when the lid blows. So this idea of, okay, I'm going to give myself a set amount of time. And it's amazing how this works. Give myself a set amount of time. And when the clock strikes, or when the dinger goes off, or the alarm stops, all right, I'm done. That's gone. On to the next thing, on to taking on the positive mindset or moving into a new discussion. And that has been released. I'm not bringing it with me anymore, because if I do, it'll drag me down and it'll keep me from growing and expanding, right?
I just want to piggyback on that real quick, that it really only takes 60 to 90 seconds to feel an emotion fully. That's it. So if we actually give ourselves that space to feel the anger, the frustration, whatever it might be, it's going to pass. I had so much built up anger inside of me towards my second husband after my tsunami, because we ended up homeless and all of these things. And I was so angry. I remember one day being with myself in my car, in my mom van, driving safely in the neighborhood, 20 miles an hour. And I remember thinking, I've got to get rid of this anger. And I thought the roof was going to blow off my van, because it was just, it was in me. And I allowed myself to feel the anger, and I was cussing at him and saying the nastiest words possible. I had a tear escape my cheek and all of that. And then I turned the corner, and then it was gone. And I sat there and I was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. So I was like trying to, this was a year of holding this stuff in. And I tried to drum up more anger. But here's what the most fascinating thing is. I was still angry at him cerebrally, because what he did was not cool, but my body had released the toxic energy of the anger. And I will tell you this, the God's truth. These are acre lots where my parents lived in, my mom and stepfather. It was however long it takes you to drive 20 miles an hour past 2 acre lots. That is all it took. And that anger had dissipated from me. The density of the emotion, the energy, because guess what emotion is, you guys? It's energy in motion. So you get rid of that energy, and it felt like a reset, just so I can continue soldiering on. Didn't mean I wasn't, to this day, well, I'm not really mad about it to this day. I release it all now. But there took a while where I was like, I still can't believe someone would do something so dastardly. But it doesn't take long. So give yourself that time. You can do it in the bathroom at work. I mean, it doesn't take long. Just let it out. Hit a pillow. Scream into a pillow. Anything, frustration, anger, sadness, tears, let it go.
This is a really cool story, but we don't have time for me to go into the whole story. So I'll just sum it all up by saying, oftentimes if I speak at a retreat, or I'll speak at a youth retreat, adults, they don't do it as well as youth do. Youth can be more honestly. And I'll set up a microphone and I'll say, how many of you are angry? How many of you are angry at God? And I said, I want you to come up here and tell him. That's all I told him. There's no rules here.
So
we're not going to look down on you. You tell God how you feel, or you tell all of us how you feel. And these kids will get up and, it's really silent until the first person does it. And then there's a line behind the microphone. I never told them anything more than that.
Love that.
They all ended the same way, Kristen. They all ended the same way. All of them vented. I want to cry talking about it because it was so powerful. Of course, I have to cry. I haven't cried for a while yet.
Can we cry?
That's a release, though. That's a release.
Right. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And they would come up and they would just vent, and some ugly things that happened to them. And every one of them, after they got done venting, and honestly, it wasn't much more than a minute, like you said, 60 seconds to 90 seconds to fully experience an emotion. Wow. That's not a lot of time. And every one of them, when they got done venting that out, they all ended like this. But you know what? I get it. Or you know what, God, I don't understand, but I know you love me. I know. They all ended positive. And I've done the same thing too, Kristen. One of the things I do to get rid of the negativity is I get in my car and I drive, and I'm a passionate person, and I can scream and I can yell and I can, if God was such a mean God, I'd be dead by now. I'd be gone by now. But I think he likes it when we get rid of that junk. And sometimes it's aimed at God because I don't know who else to talk to. And other times it's just aimed at, I'll give a guttural, I'll roll up the windows, drive down the highway. And I'm telling you, in a minute and a half.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's so good.
I
I love it.
Yeah. So we're talking about, addition by subtraction, the growth that we want, the growth path that we're on can be restricted, right? If we're always hanging on to the past. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes the past is regret and remorse and negative emotions. And we've talked really great today about releasing that, feeling it, letting it pass, giving it a time limit, setting time to get that done and move on, right? And that really will propel us forward. And sometimes the things in the past were things that served us well, that it was good. We had a pacifier at one time of our life, but if I'm sucking on a pacifier today, people are wondering what's wrong with me, right? So each these little steps, celebrate your victories, be grateful for how far you've come, plant a flag, take a picture, write it in your journal, and realize that what was once the peak on your climb is now your base camp for the next climb, right? But if you camp out at that first peak and you say, okay, I'm here, I've arrived, I've made it, and you just make that your home, you'll never enjoy the journey of the next climb. So this is what my coach taught me. Every climb, you start at base camp, which is 0, you get to the peak, which is 10. 10 becomes your new 0 after you celebrate your victories, and then you move on. You climb on and on for the rest of your journey. Yes, Steve.
Can I say something really quick here?
Of course.
As we close this thing up,
Yep.
is, I like to word it this way. What kind of year do you want to have? This is how I do my resolutions. They don't, regular resolutions don't work for me. So what I've learned to do is, and here's my mantra, my way of doing it. What kind of a year do I want to have? And then figure out what hindrances are in the way of that happening. Okay. And then remove those things. Those are the negative things that I remove first. Do I want to have a more peaceful year? Do I want to have a successful year? Do I want to be less angry year? It can be as general as that. Okay. And then figure out, well, what caused in the years past, what has caused me to go there? And then work on removing those negative things and watch your life hit a new happy level. Happy New Year. Exactly. Right.
Happy New Year. Yes.
I'm going to go just a tad farther and say, what up in here is stopping you? What limiting beliefs and thoughts? Because I believe it is the limiting beliefs and thoughts that are really keeping us stuck. So when we can start working on those one step at a time, you can't help but catapult yourself.
Right. 100%. I believe that, that limiting belief system, if you abbreviated that as LBS, which is the same as pounds. Pounds keep us heavy, make us stuck. We don't want to go, make us want to quit. So release the pounds, the limiting belief systems, and allow yourself to believe for something better. And that's really
the pounds.
Release the pounds. So I just want to thank Kristen Brown and Steve O'Hayes for your brilliance, for your time, your energy, your effort, for your vulnerability, sharing about your own journey. And to all that have tuned in live, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It's an investment in you. Right. Yes. We're not the answer people, but hopefully we've raised some questions and planted some seeds and sparked something inside of you, because I really do believe that, as Kristen said, as Steve-O said, you got to find what works for you. And it may just be a variation on something that you've heard. And if you try that and it's not quite right, don't be afraid to experiment and course correct and try something new, because that's the joy of the journey, the joy of discovery, the joy of exploration. So to all of you who have tuned in now, tuned in after the fact, from Kristen, Steve-O, and I, may you have a happy, joyous, fulfilled, purposeful new year as you release the pounds and embrace the possibilities.
Peace, everybody. Much love.
Much love. Bless you all.